Like we do every year at this time, Laura and I take to the mics for this episode to wrap up another year of Health Coach Radio. We riff on what happened for us this year in our health coaching practices, what some of our favorite podcast conversations were in 2022, and what we think will be a large topic of interest and growth in the health coaching world in 2023. Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio. Can you believe it? Another year under our belt.
Crazy. This is our 5th year. This is going to be our 5th year of Health Coach Radio.
Holy cow. Remember when we first started it, where we were like, wouldn't it be cool if, hey, this isn't even really out there now. Now there's a couple of little podcasts out there, but I'm really proud of what we've put together. It's been a blast.
It has been fun. And honestly, kudos to us because we have published every week for 5 years. I think, and the reason why I think that's exciting is because podcasting is just generally growing. I mean, I know lots and lots of health coaches who, as part of their business development efforts, like they're just getting started in health coaching, they've put a podcast on the front burner to create as one of their sort of marketing pieces, which I love. Mm-hmm. And the hard part, though, for these folks is like, man, but that's the thing I have to commit to consistently, because you do have to have a consistent presence in the podcast space in order for your podcast to rank. And so I guess what I'm getting at is we managed to do it for 4 years consecutive, and it wasn't that hard.
Right.
You can do it.
Right. To be fair, we did a lot of the stuff we do ourselves, clearly, but we outsourced a few things. We have a few things that help, but my aunt, I adore her. She's wandered down the life coaching realm. She started her own podcast. I mean, she's like late 60s, early 70s. She is not a technology person. So there's a company out there that was within her budget that helped her do this stuff. And I had a blast with her. She interviewed me. We had so much fun. So I think it's just another form of content. And there's something about being a published, regardless of how highly you rank, there's something about getting published content out there. Mm-hmm. Right. And if you are just love to get out there and riff or you want to do an interview style or whatever works, right? Content is content. So yeah. I love it.
And it's just like any other content. At first, you're not going to have an audience, a big one, right? You might have a few of your fans, your friends. And what a great time to practice. Like whether you're doing a TikTok or recording a podcast or writing a blog post, great news. No one's really paying attention to it at first. So you can get comfortable with it. By the time people do find you, you'll have a library of content.
That's right.
So this just speaks to something we talk about all the time, which is, if you're looking to grow a coaching business, start creating content. Yes, you have ideas. Oh my gosh, you have so many ideas. Every single minute of your day as a health coach is a potential piece of content. Why I'm drinking raspberry kombucha. It's keto-friendly kombucha. Let's talk about it, right? Like anything that you're doing. Why am I standing on a piece of high density foam right now? Well, there's a health coaching topic right there. So yes, we have content. We have to put it out there. Anyhow, this is our content. This is some of the content that we love to put out for health coaches. And boy, what a time to be a health coach. I just feel like we are on such an upswing as an industry.
I think the best part about right now, not only are we in an upswing, but I kind of feel like the industry always has been, but a lot of the initial risk of going into this is a lot less now. When I first started, I don't know about you, I didn't even know it was a thing. I had never heard of it, ever. And everyone around me, health coach, what is that? My dad looked at me like, oh, here she goes again, because I was such like a health and nutrition nerd, Now it's an established career.
Yep.
An established career that is growing. I can't even tell you how quickly. And it's not just having to beat the bushes and go out and be an entrepreneur, right?
Right. I think to your point with the risk is that when we got started, when the whole industry got started, and you kind of touched on this, was like, it's like, what even is that? But now there is absolute understanding about what a health coach is. Mm-hmm. We're seeing more and more job postings, which suggests that organizations and industry understand what a health coach is. They're saying, what we need is health coaches. And I'm grateful to us Okay.
Yeah.
For basically being pioneers, and anybody else who's a pioneer and who stuck it out. And to anybody who's new in the space or thinking about entering the health coaching space, it's a hard yes. Do not hesitate. Now is the time. It is there. It is open for business. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I just, the starting place is elevated for you now. And it's really all just upside for those that do the work, just like health coaching, right? I mean, the upside is there for any client you would engage that's willing to do the work, because that's what coaching is. It's not about the coach doing the work. It's about the coach showing up for sure and having a program or a methodology that works. But at the end of the day, the client has to do the work. And the same thing holds true for folks entering into health coaching and getting a business started, starting a career, making connections. If you ever wished that there was an investment that you started and bought at just the right time, this is the time.
Yeah.
Excited.
I agree. So every year we do this where we just get on together and chat, and we love to review our past year of guests and quickly share some of our fave episodes. They're all our favorites. We love them all equally, but we wanted to go through, and it was hard to do, pick each of us our 3 favorite episodes. We also, in this conversation, are going to share a little bit about our individual coaching practices, just to, give you a little peek behind the kimono as to what we do as health coaches and how our businesses are going. And we'll also take a look at what we think might be a trend to look out for in the upcoming year or so. So that's what we're going to do today.
Can't wait.
I invite you to kick it off. So Laura, tell us, who was one of your fave episodes of Health Coach Radio this year?
This was so hard to choose.
I know.
We had so many good ones. One of my favorite just conversations, though, with somebody who's just like an OG in this space was John Berardi.
Oh, man.
Right? I mean, I was such fangirl the whole time. I hope I didn't come across it, but I just love listening to someone who just, what an inspiration.
Yeah.
Right. And how many lives he has changed and how humble at the same time he is.
Yes.
I love that whole conversation.
Oh my God. It was so fun. He talked and talked. He was so excited to share. Every word out of his mouth was pure gold.
Mm-hmm.
Every word.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That was one of the best.
Yeah. That's just the benefit of somebody from just, literally decades worth of experience, and I think that such a thing that every health coach can take away is the longer we're in this business, the better we're going to get. Mm-hmm. So my biggest concern with health coaching, at least in the past, was so many health coaches that gave up so early.
Yeah.
From either a business perspective or a concern over their ability to actually affect change. The longer you're in this, the more people you see, the better you get at it. You've got to stick it out. And he's a prime example of somebody who, after decades in, it just oozes out of him. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, he's a good example of, or at least this is how I interpreted his very existence on our podcast. The whole talk was like, the basics still work.
Yeah.
Right. The basics. And by that, I mean, like, why are you excited about health? Why did you want to become a health coach? What do you have to say? What is your message? What solution do you bring to the world? There's nothing really new there in terms of developing yourself as a health coach. It's always been the same. Yes, our mediums have changed. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a lot more talking into the camera now than maybe we did before. But like it hasn't changed that much at the same time, which I always find that to be a really nice sort of homecoming, to know that the basics of things still count and still work.
Absolutely. Cool. What about you? Who is one?
Okay. Well, a few weeks after John Berardi, we had a trio of people on the podcast. I'm probably going to butcher their names because it's been a while since I pronounced them for the intro, but it was Chris Grotefund, Dr. Soma Grotefund, and Laura Hoogs. So Dr. Soma Grotefund she was an MD, I believe. Mm-hmm. She's an MD. Chris, her husband, is a personal trainer. And Laura is a health coach, and they have this integrative health clinic, which is just a really exciting model because people carry around a lot of different categories of health struggle. Some of them are nutrition and lifestyle behaviors, like the health coach deals with. Some of it is movement, like the trainer can deal with. There are medical elements to it as well that the doctor, and I love this whole, I love when people stay in their lanes. I love that. It makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. But what was really cool about that as an integrative clinic was that the health coach, Laura, was the gatekeeper. So every client came through into their clinic through the health coach, and she was triaging, which I thought was such a neat approach, because we've heard of a lot of functional medicine clinics and we heard from a lot of functional medicine doctors this year who are using health coaches. Generally in that model, and there's nothing wrong with this model, but generally the medical team, they're the gatekeepers, and patients get triaged out to the health coach for help with implementation. But they did it the other way around, which I think is really cool.
What I loved about them too is their health coach was viewed as an equal partner, so to speak, in terms of the role she plays in the practice. That the role she plays is of equal importance in terms of the outcomes for every patient that's there. Because my biggest beef with sort of like jobs in the health coaching realm a few years ago is that that really wasn't the case. It was kind of like an afterthought. It's changed now, thank God. And she's a primary example of that. The way that this is set up, that more and more practitioners have begun to realize that the missing link between patients, sort of the diagnosis, the treatment, and prescription, and the outcome is the ability for the patient to actually follow through and have the confidence to know that they can affect change themselves. And that's what health coaches do. And she plays an integral role. And to your point, it's not that the doctor assesses the patient and the doctor prescribes a protocol, and now I'm going to hand you off to the health coach. It's the opposite for them. I just absolutely loved that. What a phenomenal model.
Yeah, it was exciting. They were fun to talk to as well.
Yeah. No, they really were. I loved it. My next one was a fellow health coach. I love talking to fellow health coaches, and I had put a sort of a teaser into a Facebook group I belong to for National Board Health and Wellness Coaches. So people that have passed that test, saying, "Hey, we have this podcast, and we'd love to highlight people who have made health coaching their life's work." And she answered that, and she said, I'm not out running my own business. And she like, her first response was downplaying why she shouldn't be on here. But she loves health coaching so much that she just wanted to lend a voice. And she was so peaceful, and her demeanor was so warm, and she was so, I guess, inclusive in how she framed what it is she does, even in a large setting. So she's another example of a health coach that works for an organization and handles health coaching from a larger position in more of like not a group setting. She is talking to people one-on-one, but it's from more of a corporate point of view. But she's a prime example of just different roles that health coaches can take. She's very clear and understanding of some of the challenges we still face, but she is so hopeful and so just not opportunistic. That's optimistic on the direction that this is going. And I just loved the whole conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if we said her name, Diana Bishop.
Diana Bishop. Yes.
Yeah. She was a really great conversation. She had so much insight. And also, by the way, this is a rally cry to anybody listening right now who is a health coach. You should reach out to us, because I guarantee that you have something to share that would benefit another health coach listening. So we're going to talk in this episode about, and we already have, about the growth of health coaching writ large. And so it's really time to start talking to and hearing from health coaches. We love talking to doctors and innovators and celebs, and we love talking to health coaches. And, when you're kind of preambling, kind of introducing Diana, you said, she was kind of like, who, little old me? I'm just a health coach. And it's like, yeah, that's the point of this podcast, to like highlight 100%. This industry.
And just from, she's not this sort of super high energy Instagram influencer, she's just a loving, supportive, but still passionate in her own way, and is affecting change every day from a larger perspective. And she just kind of wanted to lend her voice and just stand strong in what health coaching is. Yeah. That it is about change. It's about behavior change. It's about habit change. It's about empowering the client, the patient, to move forward and stand on their own 2 feet. And that's our strength. That's our superpower.
Yeah.
I love it.
It is. I'm really excited about our superpowers. I spent a lot of time this year making health coaching curriculum. And so I've been really immersed in how cool health coaching is. And it just really is. Okay. The second on my list is another fitness celeb. I'm a big fan of this guy, Jordan Syatt. He was only on recently. Now, Jordan Syatt, if you follow him, he swears a lot.
He does.
No filter. If you follow him on Instagram, it's hilarious. He's hilarious. He doesn't care. He's got a huge following. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you all hate him. He doesn't care if you unfollow him. He's literally doing whatever he wants. He's saying whatever he wants. He has his own beliefs. He puts them out there. He doesn't worry about it. He's also a very good coach. He's got a very successful business. He's got a membership community, and he's been in the game a long time. So we can always learn from people who've been in the game a long time. But also just the, freedom with which he goes through and creates content.
Yeah.
I find very refreshing. He has a huge audience. We started this conversation by saying most of us don't. But if a guy with a huge audience can just say whatever he wants without fear of repercussion, then why the hell can't we?
No, I love that. The fact that he doubled down on just get out there and create great content, and also just be a really good coach. Mm-hmm. He also, I think, sent a great message that, over time, as we grow and mature as coaches, our businesses will too, and things will change. And that's okay. And to lean into that. Look, I also think he's a great example of, you don't have to be something you're not. Right. Be you. You don't need everybody to love you. You just need you need enough people to love you. You don't need everyone to like you, right? Yeah. You need that core sort of group of just people who love you. Not necessarily having to appease all camps, because that's never fun. You can never be yourself. And clearly that was never going to be a thing for him. And he crushes it. I loved it.
Yeah, it was fun. He's just fun to listen to. I probably share something from his Instagram every other day in my feed. 'Cause I'm like, yes, he just said it perfectly. He's just saying it and putting it out there, and with just no worries, no cares. It's lots of fun to hang with him.
And I think it's lots of fun to kind of poke fun a little bit at some of the things that you hear people in the industry say, or some of the things you kind of hear clients say, that they're saying one thing, but really what they're saying means something else.
Along those lines, actually, for anybody who hasn't listened to that episode yet, he dropped a polarizing piece of advice that sometimes we hear. It was a piece of business advice, which was, screw the niche. He's like, I'm so tired of people niching down, which you would never hear a business coach say that. And even I struggle to reconcile that. But he had a pretty compelling case for why he says screw the niche. So for anybody out there who's like, I don't know about this niche thing. Do I really need a niche? Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. I will say it makes it easier to do marketing, but there's an argument to be made contrary to that. So have a listen.
Absolutely. Because I think at the end of the day, it's not so much the niche, it's the message.
Yeah.
Right. What's your message? And you never really know what aspects of a niche are going to resonate with that message. So there's a lot of ways that you can sort of go to market to build a fan base. And if you just, especially new coaches, we hear this all the time, right? At our school, like, I'm having a really hard time. Like narrowing my niche down. And so it's focusing on something else, focus on the problem, focus on the message, whatever it is. You will find, because that's something that came up, like, let your niche find you. You will find, based on your message and your personality and the problem that you solve, that you tend to find people that have something similar together are drawn to you. Yeah. So I loved that too. He was so fun.
He was.
And don't, if you're sensitive to F-bombs,
it's immediate F-bomb. Like, I actually, I should have warned you. I'm like, he's probably going to swear. I don't mind, but it's always, just so everyone knows.
It was fine. It was all good.
Yeah.
So my last one was one more recent too, which was in the business side of things, was Yuri Elkane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we interview a lot of business coaches, a ton of them. And he does more than that. And what I loved about what he spoke to was just how actionable everything was that he shared. And he was very, very clear at what he thinks really drives business and drives revenue, but most importantly, produces outcomes for both the client and you. He was very, I think to a certain degree, kind of, once again, called some things out to task that a lot of people give lip service to that isn't necessarily true. I think he poked holes in this kind of stuff, one of whom was, how to use social media, where some people say organic traffic is the way to begin. He's saying, I kind of think you need to flip that on its head, pay for your first few clients. Now you've got some money to invest in your business so you can produce more content and then let that organic growth happen on the back end. Like, it completely flipped on its head, and I'd never heard that before, but it made sense.
It makes so much sense. And it was like, when he said it, we're like, yeah, that is actually more logical in a lot of ways than the other way around. Not that there's anything wrong with starting with organic. It's obviously free, so it's therefore accessible to more people, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow because you're trying to build a following from zero. Can be done. But funneling folks into your realm through paid ads would be faster. It seems to me, just based on my experience as a health coaching educator, that people would like it to be successful like yesterday. So maybe you invest a bit of money.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I just thought it was a very actionable interview from somebody who built and sold a very successful business, built another one, and is producing more successful businesses with the clients. And his is group coaching. It's not one-on-one. He does it in a group, and he was pretty clear as to why he did that. It was an interesting conversation.
It was. It was a really good conversation. Like, he wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to wow us or impress us. He was like, brass tacks, here we go. This is the answer. This is how you do it. So it was just lots of good clarity from that conversation with him. Yes. Well, my third on the list is somebody who I always enjoy spending time in the vicinity of, even through the Zoom airwaves. And that was our friend Brad Kearns. So the backstory as to why Brad came on our show, first of all, we just love talking to Brad. Honestly, he's so fun to talk to. He will make you think, like, the way his mind works. And he's like super long time OG fitness guy, endurance athlete guy. So he's been in the industry forever and ever. He co-wrote a lot of Mark Sisson's books, and he's just been in it for a long time. He's a prolific podcaster himself, but the spirit behind having him on our show was because we worked with Brad this year. We've worked with Brad many times, but this year we worked with Brad to create a fitness coaching course. I think because as educators, we believe that health coaching needs to be more prominent in the fitness industry, first of all. And in a lot of ways that the fitness industry is due for a little bit of renaissance in how it approaches movement and like this whole life kind of movement. I'm not using the word functional. What do we call it? Mark had a word that he used.
Utilitarian.
That's what it was. It was like the basics of human movement. And that includes things like, yes, lifting weights, and yes, high intensity efforts, but also minding your nervous system state, and also breathing, and standing, and, lying down. Like, it's a very comprehensive course. And Brad truly lives these movement philosophies. Yeah. He's in my mind the guru of them. And so anyways, it was fun talking to him, like just the two of us talking to him about fitness in general, how it's a little bit goofy sometimes, how it can be made better so that the end consumer gets more out of it for their life. It was a fun one.
This was a project that we'd had an eye on for a couple of years, and it was like, gosh, who's going to help us write it? Because we don't have the time, not to write all of them. And he was the perfect person because, to your point, he embodies it every single day. I mean, so other than like Mark, he embodies it every single day. And he has such a way of delivering information that's easy to read. It's entertaining to read. And just from the standpoint of an interview and having a conversation, he's so fun to talk to. And he loves poking fun at just kind of the conventional fitness industry. And a lot of this comes from, you and I do it too, but a lot of this comes from between you and me and Brad. I mean, I don't even know how many decades of industry, like fitness industry experience. So, if we want to poke fun at it, we can, because we've all seen the limitations, the challenges, where things really don't make sense, but people still continue to double down on them. And I think what we've brought to market, what Brad has brought to market is a course that helps coaches, not just trainers, but coaches and trainers help their clients really get their arms around where fitness fits into their life, the ability to be fit enough for the life they want to lead. That's the whole point of it, right? The whole point of fitness is to be able to live the life you want to lead. And if you're always limping because stuff hurts, or if you're spending 2 hours in the gym, which doesn't allow you to spend enough time with your family, what's the point? Mm-hmm. And we've really kind of built a better mousetrap here. And he just did a phenomenal job of having a great conversation in making that case. So it's always fun to talk to him.
I mean, that course, so it's the Primal Fitness Certification course, if anyone's looking to track it down, it's enormous. And so I was tasked with kind of building it after Brad wrote it. Mm-hmm. And I laughed, I gasped, I had aha moments. I had a lot of range of emotions in just connecting with Brad's point of view on fitness. It's a really enjoyable curriculum. I have to say it's immense, and it's fun from start to finish. Now, to be really honest with you, there's still that section of the fitness industry that wants to crush and have that suffer mentality. And we're always going to have the bros, I guess. I don't want to I have no, I'm a bro. I mean, I get it. Like, but also there's an arm to the fitness industry that is like, where do regular people fit in, or people who, to your point, are looking at this from the perspective of their whole life health. Yeah. So that's kind of who we're speaking to in this course.
I love it.
Health. Yeah. It's cool. Well, that was hard. That's always hard. I know. It stresses us out to pick our favorite 3 episodes. But we did it. We can do hard things.
We can.
Are you a health coach who wants more hands-on coaching training? Are you thinking about becoming board certified? Primal Health Coach Institute's Master Coach Certification program checks both of those boxes. It's live, so you get to ask questions as you go, and we cap the number of students for each round so you get individualized attention and plenty of opportunity to practice your coaching skills with faculty and peers. Coaches become great with experience, and this course fast tracks that educational experience so you don't have to spend years learning directly from clients. You'll know exactly how to coach for optimal results in just 12 weeks. It also prepares you to sit for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches exam so you can become a board-certified health coach. We only offer this certification program twice a year, and it fills up fast. So be sure to learn more at primalhealthcoach.com and reserve your seat soon. Okay, so interview question for you.
Yes.
Let's reflect back on your 2022 as a health coach. What was something that you did or created or focused on? What was a highlight of your year in health coaching?
I moved to a new area. So that's not all that new. This was my second year. In my first year here, I lived my life, but I was reluctant for whatever reason in my own community to really spend time talking about what I did. I just wanted these people to get to know me for who I was. And so this second year, I got much more comfortable building a local business here the way I did it the old fashioned way last time. Just the last time I didn't think anything of it for whatever reason. I think I was so excited about it. I would just meet people and offer to help. I wasn't saying I'm a health coach because I hadn't embodied it early on, right? My first couple of years. And now I have been a health coach for so long that I just stepping boldly into, I'm a health coach, and I didn't want to come across as salesy to like my neighbor. you know. But I've just gotten more comfortable. And it was a huge lesson in what a tremendous appetite there is for not just information, but someone people can trust that they know, because I'm a local neighbor, they automatically know me. They know that I walk the talk, they know my children. And I wasn't sitting there trying to pitch something so much as just, again, offering to help. And for the first few times that came out, like, I just want everyone to know most people aren't going to make the connection. They're just going to be like, oh, that was great. That was helpful. And then, as we got a little bit farther into the year, a few more months into it, I got another referral or something. Hey, can you help me with this? So I've been able to continue to build a name and sort of a grassroots effort, because you and I have talked about this before. I am just functionally illiterate when it comes to doing stuff like online and on social media, but I am getting better. I forced myself out of my comfort zone, and I went and applied to have my own branded app in the App Store through Coach Catalyst. Cool. And that is going to go through. It should be out any day. Spent some money to do that, invested some money to do that. So now I have no excuse. So now it's out there, and I'm just going to get out there and talk about it with my local community, but I am forcing myself out of my comfort zone to get this up and running and growing. So that's the other thing that I worked on, which was taking the steps that I needed to take, because there's a lot that goes into applying for a developer account at the Apple Store and Google. And that took me some time, and building out the program the way I wanted it to be and making those changes. And so it took some time, and it was kind of really outside my comfort zone, anything technology wise, that I finally just bit the bullet and did it. So the CoachLaura.fit app will be in the App Store any day. Amazing. And I guess just kind of going back to back to the future, I guess, in terms of just working organically with people around me to build a reputation for what I do and who I am, and building trust here. It's been a really, really fun year.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great example of, so like, you had this model that worked. It worked when you lived in Illinois. Mm-hmm. Then you moved, and moving to a whole nother region of the world is a major upheaval. So it took a bit of time just to kind of catch your breath. And then it was like, okay, time to just refocus on my coaching business. How should I do this? And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, you went back to a formula that A, worked, and B, was very comfortable for you.
Yeah.
And then you stretched yourself. You gave yourself a push goal to include some technology. And the app is a great thing. The app is a great idea for you because your business is built so on relationships. And then to say, hey, by the way, just pop into the App Store. We all have our devices on us anyway. People are super literate about apps. The Coach Catalyst app is very easy to use.
Yep.
The platform is easy to use. So Laura built her own sort of curriculum on the Coach Catalyst app, which we love those guys. We think their app is one of the best out there. But it's easy. It's sort of like you still build these in-person relationships, and you have this very simple, nimble technology piece that kind of helps you to kind of have your toe in that world as well. Also, that's your programming, and programming is where it is at. That is the golden goose, is having a program that you can sell people to, whether you're selling it to them as a one-on-one coaching relationship that's maybe high ticket, or selling them into an app, or anything in between. You got to have a program.
Yeah, you got to have it out there to sell. And I just, because in the past, everything about what I did was so low tech. I literally did everything over phone and email for years and years and years. And I could still do that. But I also know that was going to limit my growth. And I could only really take on, and doing a bigger group program too was going to be harder the bigger that grew. So I really needed to get technology going. And, I had used Coach Catalyst just through because of the partnership we had and some of the corporate wellness stuff I did last year, which we're going to be doing again this year with Primal. I was comfortable with that technology. So I leaned into that, and CoachLaura.fit coming to the App Store near you.
Well, see, and now somebody who describes himself as a technophobe, all it took was a few reps. You kind of push yourself to get comfortable with this technology because you had these corporate clients, and because we built this tool. And then it was like, you know what? I'm pretty good at that app. I'm pretty good at that technology. I'm just going to lean into it. So like, I really do believe anything can be learned. Some things are easier than others, but I acknowledge you because you didn't say, "Oh, I'm a technophobe. That's just who I am." You said, how can I push myself here? How can I get a little more comfortable with technology? You don't have to become a cyborg, but there are happy mediums along that continuum, and you found one that works for you.
Yeah. I'm excited for next year. Yeah. What about you? So fill me in a little bit. Fill us all in. Because I know you've had quite a few things.
Well, I think last year when we had this conversation, and I can't remember, but I think last year I said my year in review last year was I took on too many clients. I had actually kind of gotten a little burnt out, and some of those clients weren't ideal clients, which is just a lesson in like, please don't take everyone. This is talking earlier about the non-existent niche. It's like, well, if you set out helping everyone, you just might get everyone. And some of those everyone's might not be your cup of tea. So that happened last year. So this year I kind of intentionally slowed things down. And when I say I intentionally slowed things down, all I mean is there were fewer calls to action in my content marketing strategy. I was still doing content as much as I ever did. I'm not a prolific content poster. I'm really not. But when I was posting content, I was just like, since I don't want a flood of clients this year, and I know this sounds super crazy, but hear me out. Since I don't want a flood of clients this year, I'm just going to put out what I want to put out. I'm just going to put it out for the sake of putting it out there. Here's my point of view. Here's what I think and feel. Here's what I believe. Here's what I know. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. And just putting that out like with no call to action, no sales pitch. Because honestly, I get most of my business through Instagram, and Instagram is so pitchy right now. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it's just my filter bubble, but whenever I open Instagram, there's no benign content anymore. There's no entertaining content anymore. It's just we're just all selling to each other at this point, which I guess is a good thing. It's fine. I love the gig economy. I'm a huge fan of it. So anyway, I just was putting out a bit more just like whatever content. And this year I didn't have my business coaches in my roster anymore. I had kind of timed out of their services, but they held an event that I went to. And this is the first time I've gone to a live event in a while, right? Because they were canceled for a couple of years. So I went to this live event, and it was a room full of people who these business coaches had worked with. So it was a lot of just coaches, different kinds of health coaches, fitness coaches, all types of coaches you can think of, online business people. And, I spent a good chunk of money to go to this event because, well, it was in California and I wanted to have a nice hotel room and I wanted to eat well. And I kind of made a whole event out of it. But being immersed in that environment was very exciting. And I learned a lot, or I reconnected to some ideas that I already knew, which is what I needed. I just needed to be refreshed a little bit. I just needed to take a step back and then be like reinvigorated into health coaching, and not into health coaching, into the business development, the marketing pieces, right? I love health coaching, but like I was just kind of fatigued out of pitching myself, and I was just tired. Anyway, so at this event, we were given some exercises to do. And I've shared this before on the podcast. One of the exercises was, can somebody who doesn't know you look at your Instagram feed and understand who you are and what you do and how they can work with you and how they can get started with you? And the answer was no. People couldn't tell because I had spent the last year just putting whatever, just like, bleh, don't care. But then I realized that there is a little bit of an error in that, because then when somebody who is my ideal client and is dying for my help, which is how I think people are, like, oh my gosh, I'm dying for it. So they come to my feed and they're like, I'm not really sure if she's a coach. Does she have to take on clients? I'm not sure. So that day, I kind of like give myself a little slap across the face. I'm like, okay, come on, I'm trying to run a business here. Let's be more intentional about content. So I put out 2 posts that were very much about me, but also a call to actions. And what's really funny is that from those 2 posts that I put out on that weekend, I got 2 new clients, paid for the whole trip.
Wow.
And that to me was just funny. It was just funny. It's like, okay, universe, I get it. Okay. Point taken, universe. Okay. It's almost like the energy that you put into things does come back to you. And I never say stuff like that. I never say manifesty stuff like that. That's not my vibe. But it's like, you know what? I was being unintentional all year. As soon as I became intentional, people were like, oh, great, she's taking clients. So my takeaway was, in some levels, I get to decide what my business looks like. I get to either decide to have a successful business or have a quiet business, which neither one of those is right or wrong, but it's about the intention that you put out there. Whatever you put out there, you're going to get it back. And I learned that one so directly this year. And it's very empowering because now I feel like I'm in control. I'm the puppet master. I'm pulling the levers here. I can have a busy year. I can have a quiet year. I can have a normal year. How much money do I want to make? I get to decide. I can make that happen. I just thought it was a really cool little exercise in recognizing that.
So, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like last year you put yourself out there, but not necessarily with the same intention, and found yourself super busy. So that was part of the intention, but with a bunch of people and types of clients that really were not your ideal client, really got burnt out. And so it sounds like this year you felt the need to let things settle a little bit, and you allowed yourself to do that, to just reset. Gosh, that's so important. That kind of let that calmness settle in a little bit and learn from, what can you learn? What can you take away from that experience of last year? This past year too was kind of like the year of live events again. We went to one or two, and it sounds to me like this event that you attended allowed you to re-engage, but with more intention, more specificity. And I think you and I have kind of always known that intention is important, but you got direct, immediate feedback by being more intentional. So do you think that you kind of had to learn that lesson from last year for you to really embody it and get it? Do you think coaches kind of have to go through that sort of experience first to really learn it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would hope not, but here's kind of where I think the learning is. And I think you're kind of flying close to this. It was like in 2021, it was not a lot of fun. It was very busy, and I made X number of dollars, and I had a very full roster of clients, and I felt burnt out.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my business coaches, Shantae Cofield, says burnout is not when you have too much work. It's when you are doing work you don't like.
Yeah.
It's not the too much. It wasn't that I had too many clients. It was just I had too many clients that weren't my favorite. They were great people, but just not in my wheelhouse. They were working on different goals that I don't really, it was a little hard. It was just hard. And so when we say you put yourself out there, I want to put myself out there and get tons of clients. It's like, well, you can do that, and you can get tons of clients if you just put yourself out there. I put myself out there on a triathlon podcast, which is why I got triathlon clients, which were not my ideal client. Just putting that out there. Love you guys. I badly respect and admire triathletes. I'm not one. You couldn't pay me to be one. I don't get it. So anyway, but putting myself out there wasn't actually the solution. It was being intentional or being clear on what out there meant and what I wanted to get back from it. So now I have that clarity. So I just think there's nuance there. And probably, to your point, new coaches would go through it because they would just maybe splash themselves wherever they could. They'll jump on any podcast they can get on just to get their name out there. And I think we do maybe have to go through that sort of gauntlet of taking on clients that aren't an ideal fit. But that's a really good learning experience too, because then you're like, never doing that again.
Right.
Or whatever it might be. Once you get that clarity, so this year I was able to put content out that speaks to the person I want to work with and doesn't speak to anyone else. And that's where these two perfect clients came in. That weekend that I was away, I signed these two clients, paid for the weekend, and they've been great clients. And I'm feeling in the zone. And it's funny because we're at the end of the year. So I've run my financials. And to be honest with you, it wasn't that slow of a year. Like I make it sound like I took no clients this year. I had a good year. It wasn't a banner year financially like last year, but it was pretty good. And every single one of those clients was an ideal client. Yeah. And then to speak to the live event thing, very, very energizing. That was the little nudge I needed to get excited again. I feel like I was really unexcited. I spend a lot of time alone out here in my little cottage in the woods and, engaging a lot online, but that's not the same. I just do think if anybody has the chance to go to some kind of an event. By the way, this event was only expensive because I gave myself the gold like platinum treatment, but it was not an expensive event otherwise. It really paid for itself and just the information I got out. but like you can find these peer groups, these peer events, these workshops, these conferences, and just being in presence of people who are doing things like you is highly energizing.
Yeah. And this might kind of lead us into kind of what we wanted to talk about next in terms of kind of the trajectory we think health coaching is going in. I want to reiterate something you just said. Online and Zoom, it is not the same as just experiencing people and being with people. And I'm not saying you have to be a coach and see people face to face, but there's got to be some aspect of what you do that feels personal and that you can drive a connection with people. And, we were talking, I think it was last year, about what we thought was going to happen with, our brick and mortar gym is going to come back after COVID. And I say, hell yeah, I see it all the time. They're full, So I just think coaching is such a personal business, that it requires a connection. We can absolutely do it online. There's lots of people that run fantastic online businesses, but I do think the rate of growth we're going to see is
I think the word that sums it up is relationship. Coaching is a relationship.
Yeah.
And you can have those relationships in any medium. And when you're doing your marketing efforts, those too are relationships. Like think about those moments that you're putting yourself out there for your marketing efforts also as little mini relationships, and you'll get more out of it. Relationships are very rewarding.
Yeah.
So we do want to wrap up our year in review session by talking about what we think is what we can look forward to, or what we think is growing on the horizon for health coaching. It was funny because before we pressed record, we were kind of riffing like, okay, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think? And we both came to the same conclusion. We both are quite certain that this thing is the thing we're going to see. And we have good reason to believe this because Laura and I are in the health coaching space. We're health coaching educators. We've trained and mentored thousands of health coaches. They're out there practicing. We've interviewed hundreds of guests that work in the industry. So we know what we're talking about. I consider us to be relatively knowledgeable in this realm. And we both believe strongly that this is the trend for 2023. Boy, I'm really building this up. I hope it's as exciting for you all as it is this built up. But why don't you fill us in, Laura? What is it?
We just think this is going to be the year that health coaches, that there's a plethora of well-paying, fulfilling health coaching jobs coming to market. Yes. That when Erin and I started, that really wasn't a thing, right? I mean, it didn't even enter my head to look for a job as a health coach. Was not a thing. That the health coaching industry was something that was growing on its own. The predominant way was through private practice, people building their own businesses. Yet bizarrely, none of the schools out there actually taught you how to do that. Strangely, we were one of the first. But now, and look, some of this I think has come from the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, and the professionals that put that together recognized that there should be a natural synergy between health coaching and healthcare, and there wasn't one. Mm-hmm. And that part of that had to do with a lot of things, health coaching not being regulated, health coaches working outside of their scope of practice, and all sorts of other things. And so they aim to kind of bridge that gap. They've done a tremendous job, but also from the standpoint of public health, top down, I don't care what country you're in. From the standpoint of healthcare systems, top down, I don't care what system or what country you're in, every single one of them have realized that if we don't do a better job of improving patient outcomes, we are in for a world of trouble 5 to 10 years from now. And the distinct disconnect is how a patient works its way through health care in terms of having a problem, going in to see a physician of some kind, being diagnosed with a problem, and then being prescribed a treatment protocol of some kind. Problem should be solved, right? Right. Problem is not solved. People are not getting better, and they are unsatisfied and unhappy with their outcomes. And it's because there's a missing link between what they walk out of that appointment with and their ability to actually implement what needs to happen in order for them to get better. It's not just a magic pill. The magic pills aren't working.
Exactly.
They're
and
not
then
working.
you think about like the common refrain is, oh my gosh, the medical system is overwhelmed. Doctors don't have time. Well, one of the reasons they don't have time is because the same patients keep coming back. What
Right.
if that patient had an action plan and then was kind of like removed from that sort of immediate, urgent, acute pipeline and was more into the maintenance element of it? And, what's really fun is, so I think you do too. I have an Indeed.com job alert for health coaching jobs. And every single day I get an email. Sometimes there's 3 jobs, sometimes there's 30 jobs in health coaching, and sometimes they're hourly, and sometimes there are these really nice salary ranges. Off the top of my head, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, I saw one company that's focusing on patients with neck pain. One organization is focusing on patients with vertigo, chronic vertigo. And then we have things like Verta Health, which is type 2 diabetes. And there's a back pain clinic, and, there's weight loss clinics, there's bariatric surgery clinics. There's all of these all of these specialty clinics that are seeking health coaches. So imagine now you're a health coach at a vertigo clinic. Okay. Like and the doctor's given you the patient some like head exercises to do to get their inner ear balanced. They have to go and do that so that they can have relief from their vertigo. Maybe you're the health coach that facilitates the inner ear exercises, these little head wobbling things. Like, to me, it's just insane and amazing that role exists for somebody. And I just think how transformational that ends up being for the patient. They actually get relief from the thing that brought them to the doctor. We don't want to downplay very serious medical conditions that really need, medical attention. But the ones where it's like the doctor says, I need you to go away and do these behaviors, and people aren't.
Right.
We get to really have a hand in helping people feel actually better, impact on the individual level. And we can also impact this overwhelmed healthcare system that's become basically the butt of a joke at this point.
Yeah. Indeed.com seems to be the behemoth. I mean, the last time I looked, I think it was down from 11,700 to like 10,900, tons of them. Right. And that's, but look, you weed through the riffraff. There's going to be some that are local jobs that aren't local to you. Some of them are around a specialty or an industry or a patient group that you really don't have an interest in. Some aren't going to pay enough. Some are going to require that you're a nurse or an RD or a therapist or something like that. But then you're going to come down to likely, I mean, if you came up with 100 out of 10,000 jobs that were something you could apply for, how awesome is that? The other thing I've noticed, I have gotten email after email from LinkedIn in my email because I've got health coach and this is what I do. And LinkedIn keeps sending me job opportunities. I do not have an active job search set up in LinkedIn. I don't, but they know what I do because what's on there. And I keep getting these little alerts that there are all these jobs. So friends, this is on the line. And here's the thing. I was looking at some of the job descriptions. Some of them are not health coaching, to be fair. And some of them want you to be a health coach, but they want you to do all this other stuff. And I'm wondering if some of these employers are just looking for a way to get around having to hire a nurse, all right, to do patient charting stuff. So they're going to be looking for you to do multiple things. If you're okay with that, that's cool. But I think at this point, this is something, Erin, you and I were talking about with the gentleman who is going to be heading up the Holistic Council for Health Educators, is the need to really protect what health coaches do. Stand firmly in how you define what you do as a health coach. Collectively, we're still really missing any kind of legal definition. That's okay. Because I think broadly speaking, those of us that really embody health coaching, we know it's about change. We know it's about behavior change. We know it's about habits, all of this stuff. And we need to really protect what that role is and not dilute that. And so, like if I was someone looking for a job today and I saw something that really looked promising, but I would go in and I would stand true with just your knowledge and what health coaching is and saying, I want to come in and be the health coach. That other stuff I'm willing to do, but I think you should pay me extra to do that stuff because that's not what I should be doing.
Yeah. Well, the conversation we had with Sarah from the Holistic Council was this idea of like protecting the health coaching credential, not not in the traditional sense of the word, like,
right.
but rising up to the credential rather than downplaying it. Like, oh, I'm a health coach. I have a limited scope of practice, which we have a certain scope of practice. I don't think it's limited.
No,
it's different.
Right.
It's different. And it's incredibly impactful. And it's the stuff that has been missing in healthcare thus far. We have diagnoses, we have tests, we have pills, we have potions, we have doctors, we have wards, but we don't have is people helping patients do the things that make them feel better, taking the pills, doing the exercises, whatever the case may be. And so it's a paradigm shift. We have this is our scope of practice. Yay. This is what I do. Yes. Right. It's not a limitation. It's the opportunity.
Right. And I would argue, so this is just an anecdote from, speaking of live events, a live event we attended this past year. We went to the Metabolic Health Summit. We were talking to someone who is a registered dietitian. She is a licensed clinician. And the event we were attending, the Metabolic Health Summit, is all about ketogenic nutritional therapies, right? To treat conditions. And one of the biggest beefs they had as dietitians was how, due to their licensure, due to their scope of practice and the threat of losing that license, in some cases, they could not prescribe a ketogenic or low carb diet to a patient because they had to follow certain rules, right? We are an unregulated profession with a general scope of practice that gives us quite a bit of wiggle room. Why do you want to write meal plans? That is not fun. I don't want to put somebody at the last testimonial I got from my last client who I just graduated was, she never told me what to eat. We just talked about food. And I learned how to understand what these foods do. And these were his words. I now have the confidence when I'm on the road to order from a restaurant and know that I'm doing something good for my body. You know, that's what I do. That's what health coaches do. I say he's got confidence, right? And I just think we need to, rather, to your point, rather than lamenting about we have this scope of practice and it's not rigid. This is what health coaches do. If you happen to live in a state that might allow you to do something else that's not health coaching, and you choose to do that because you feel confident, you've been trained, you got the background, whatever the case may be, awesome. But boy, like, boldly protect what you do and your role and the value you bring.
Yeah, it is an exciting paradigm shift because, as educators, we have to know, we have to really know scope of practice because we teach it. And we care that our coaches graduate knowing their role.
Right.
And I've never felt more excited about our scope of practice than I do right now, because it's like, we have the opportunity to make the big change, because that's in our wheelhouse, that's in our lane, the behavior change stuff. That's what we do. And so this is a rally cry pep talk. It is, but also we purely and truly believe that jobs, opportunities for health coaches, there's never been more of them. To Laura's point earlier, when you first got started, it was about private practice. Where do I find clients? How do I build a business? I don't feel entrepreneurial. How am I going to do this? Great news. You don't have to at all. And we're going to be able to really make meaningful impact on the healthcare system. We know we get the CPT codes that are being used right now for tracking right now they're tracking codes. They're not reimbursable, but to track the efficacy of health coaching in medical interventions. And so this research is underway. Like, the insurance companies are looking at it like, oh, let's check this out. So like, that's how you know it's real. If the insurance companies are like, let's check this out. It's real. It's happening. Whether you decide to work in a medical clinic or not, we've just created a course to help, facilitate people into medical clinics, which I think is really exciting. Even though I myself have never really been sick. I've never really been in the healthcare system. I'm excited. Like, I kind of want to. I feel like that might be a neat next evolution of me as a health coach, is to find a clinic that wants to work with a coach and actually watch people get better en masse.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's exciting.
It's so exciting. And look, this something else that happened this past year was the CDC issued a grant to the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching to develop a group coaching program for at-risk patients of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So the VA hires health coaches. The CDC is funding health coaching programs for people that have lifestyle-related diseases. We will continue to see. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine from the gym, actually, who started a business. He's the CEO of a company. I think it's called Simplex Health. I probably butchered it, but they use health coaches. They partner with practitioners and physicians, and they've got a couple different arms of their business, but a huge chunk of how they drive outcomes and efficacy is using health coaches to drive behavior and habit change. They are an employer of health coaches. So, and Verta Health is, Iorta. In fact, I think they were bought out by somebody else, but it's growing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny because we've had some people on the podcast, like we said earlier, doctors and functional medicine clinics, and the way, like the way they describe how they use health coaches, they'll say, oh yeah, we use health coaches, as though it's a foregone conclusion. Of course we use health coaches. Where like 3 years ago, it's like, well, we're trying this thing with health coaches. Now it's like, oh yeah, we use health coaches all the time in our practice. It's like, it is so mainstream now. Yeah. It's crazy. This mainstream now. Like, wow, we really made it to the, we're on our way, right?
Yeah, we're there. I mean, functional medicine clinics, we're doing it early on. Again, we're trying this thing. Now it's kind of like, it's expected now that if you walk into a functional medicine clinic, you're going to have somebody working in that role, and it's bleeding very quickly into the conventional medical space.
It is.
Worldwide.
I mean, it is. It completely is. If anybody out there is skeptical of that, just borrow our optimism for a few minutes, because we're seeing it happen. Even conventional Western medicine is warming up to it. It's not all doom and gloom out there. It's actually a really exciting time.
Oh yeah. And I think we believed in it so much, we invested in building a course. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of that course is to help health coaches learn the language of the healthcare system and how to speak in a way that a healthcare practitioner will embrace what you're trying to say. Yeah. Because I think some of the feedback that we've gotten in the past was that some of these, I don't know if it's so much the end practitioner as the system, but like this disbelief that this can really drive change, finding someone who's open-minded, that's changing dramatically. But I think if you can just change how you express what you do, and at the end of the day, express the value it will bring to the practice across multiple ways. And that's kind of what we aim to accomplish here. Yeah, we
actually have scripts in the course for that exact thing. It's called a practice value proposition. So, in our course and on this podcast, we've talked about your unique value proposition, the problem that you solve for whatever XYZ client. Well, when you go into medical practice, it's the practice value proposition. What do I offer to this medical establishment, including all the stakeholders, which includes the doctor, the other medical staff, the patient, the patient's family, the insurance company, the payer, whoever the payer might be, all those stakeholders. You have to be able to pitch yourself as a necessary and viable element to all of those stakeholders. So we teach how to do that. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you live in a regular, normal size, whatever, medium sized city, there's probably 100 to 1,000 medical clinics in your city. And if 1% of those was open to hiring health coaches, look at you go. Like you can contract yourself out to multiple clinics. You can get hired as an employee at one. It's available to you. You might have to pound the pavement for now. Get yourself an Indeed search going, whatever the case may be, but the jobs are there. The jobs are going to be there. That's our trend. That's our prediction for 2023 and beyond.
Absolutely. Get on LinkedIn too, if you're not already, or start using it more, because I think you might find some pretty cool spots in there too. It gives you the opportunity. I mean, if you want to be viewed as a professional, that's what LinkedIn's all about. So I would recommend that too.
Cool. Well, cheers to year 5.
Year 5.
And thanks to everybody for listening. And we'd love to hear from you. So tell us what you want to talk about. And if you're a health coach practicing, we'd love to talk to you on the podcast.
We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear what you want to know more about, what kinds of guests you want to hear from. Let us know, because we are here to serve you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Here's to 2023.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.